Today we're speaking to Cordless Consultants MD Nigel Miller about the role of technology in the workplace. Nigel, hello.
Hi.
How is technology changing how we work?
Wow, well, rapidly and with quite some extremes. I think the obvious and biggest single thing that we're seeing is the increase in what I would call mobility. People just moving around a lot more, both within their workplace and outside. And we've all got used to the tablets and the iPads and so on that enable us to do that and to work fairly seamlessly. But I think that's had a real impact on office design and how the office is used in terms of the sort of seating you need, the sort of facilities you need. And it's not only being able to work in different locations that are suitable to using that the technology you were using at the time, activity-based working as it's called, but also being able to seamlessly move from one technology to another. In other words, some of the fixed technologies, for example in meeting room screens, being able to actually continue a meeting or a conversation online and move from one medium or one type of technology to another. And I think that's really where things are starting to change and become so much more intuitive in their use. In the past, people have been quite nervous about that sort of thing, and understandably, things were quite clunky, but we're seeing things become much more integrated and simpler. So I think that's the biggest single area, but I think we are seeing a lot more embedded technology as well. So buildings that are starting to now, at last, we will see the intelligent building, where the building is actually responding to the people within it, its customers, if you like, and are able to make certain decisions and interact with the technology that they carry. So, for example, if you've got a meeting room booked, being able to go to that room and the room being ready set up, maybe with a video call already ready to go, rather than having to come into a room, set the heating, set the various other aspects. Just becoming an automated process. And I think we'll see more and more of that as people come into a building. The reception might be impacted by, through the technology, even the lift transport. So the whole building starts to react to the person. And I think that's a real big change that technology will make in the very near future.
And the role of IT and AV in workplace strategy, property strategy, real estate, how has that changed?
Yeah, I guess really it's turned it on its head. Not for everyone, but it used to be the case that a company would say, how many people have we got? We need to allow a certain square footage per person in old money. So 100 square feet per person, 1,000 people. We need this sort of size of building with obviously some circulation space. We're getting a new building. How many people have we still got? How many do we think we'll have? Let's base it on that and go and acquire that property, and then we'll fit it out, and then we'll get some furniture, and then we'll sprinkle some IT on the top. And that's pretty much now being completely reversed. We're getting a lot of companies talking to us that say, how is technology changing the space we need? Do we need to still own desks? Well, for some, yes, but for a lot, that's no longer necessary. So immediately the space dynamic starts to change, but you do need other spaces, as I referred to earlier, maybe touchdown spaces and quiet corners, maybe even technology-free zones that can be used depending on the activity you're carrying out. And that starts to have an impact on the space you need, the type of furniture you need, the type of design. So really, the technology is starting to underpin some of those selections, which in turn is really impacting the selection of how much space you actually need. What are the property requirements? So you could almost say that in a lot of cases now, the technology is driving the property strategy. So it's a complete reversal of where we were.
Okay, what are the key challenges that you're seeing when implementing IT and AV in the workplace?
Well, I'm glad to say that everything hasn't commoditised. So if everything had commoditised, we probably wouldn't need consultants like us. So it's still not as simple as buying a box, plugging it in, and away you go. There is a fair amount of integration and coordination that needs to be carried out, and planning ahead, because not everyone wants the same impact, that wants the same outcomes from their technology, or even the same type of technology. So planning those things through, making sure that integration and that the systems that need to talk to each other can do so seamlessly is massively important. And of course the whole thing puts an added amount of stress, if you like, on the infrastructure, which has to work. It's absolutely essential, especially if you're trying to carry people with a vision of a new building that's going to be relatively automated, and the first time they use it, and they're doubting Thomases, and the first time they use it, it fails. You probably never win them back. So that technology and the underpinning infrastructure has really got to work, and it's got to work seamlessly and easily. And so that puts an extra stress on the design, the resilience. I mean, a lot of the resilience had to be there in the past anyway, because it was carrying valuable data and voice traffic, but it just means there's got to be an extra level that allows systems to talk to each other. And I think that's making the biggest change in the whole design aspect. And there is a bit of an irony there, because we have started to see increasingly some of the more commoditised parts of the infrastructure, so the structured cabling, for example, being dealt with by the main contractor, the builder, maybe the mechanical electrical services engineers, who aren't necessarily specialised in that area, which is kind of leaving a little bit of a gap between this sort of vision of seamless integration and things being put in almost to a template, almost like the lighting circuit. So I think those things need drawing in and making sure that a good and solid design is delivered, and then obviously carried through and tested, etc.
And how are consultants like Cordless helping overcome these challenges?
Well, I think I probably referred to that in my last response, and that is it does need that coordinated design. It needs to have an eye on the future. The infrastructure is going to need to be able to, especially the fixed infrastructure, will have to be within the building for at least 10 years, probably considerably longer than that. A building life's at least 40, and yet we've seen a refresh of technology in line with Moore's law of about 18 months. Fixed technologies such as screens and so on, even they're changing at a rate of notch. You look at a 3-year-old screen and it looks pretty out of place, pretty out of date. So the infrastructure, and especially the fixed side, needs to be able to adapt to new technologies coming along, and that to be an easy transformation. The last thing you want to be doing is ripping the fabric of the building apart of a new building shortly after moving in, because a new technology needs an extra cable or extra cables for screens or whatever. So it's having that forethought, and really that's a large part of what we're in. You know, we're although we're a technology consultancy, and that's what we do, I think what we're really selling to some degree is our ability to cast our minds forward, is future-proofing. And I think if you can get that piece right, that gives you the flexibility with the endpoint technologies. So if we can make that easier for our clients and bring that value, along with a vision of what the future will be and what are the new and emerging technologies right now, then hopefully we can make that whole move process and that fit out of the new premises that much easier.
And speaking of the future, could you give us your top 3 insights into the future of IT and AV?
Wow, IT and AV across. Well, I guess, again, coming back to the automated building, I think we will see that coming increasingly quickly now. So a building that starts to respond as people move through it, it may recognise a returning client coming into reception and flag that up with a concierge. The lifts may be tied to that, so they don't have a waiting time, and it takes them directly to the right floor. The meeting room's set up at the optimum temperature with the call ready to go, etc. etc. I think we'll see an increasing level of that. Developers and others are now taking a much closer look at those aspects. So I think that's without doubt probably number one. I would say number one of the list. Number two, I think, is just increasingly intuitive technology. For so long, people have rejected, and rightly so to some degree, technology, and it's been propeller heads who have used it because they knew how to get the screen to switch on from the plethora of remote controls that were laid out in front of them, how to get a certain device to connect to another, lots of clunky presses of buttons and so on. We really need to get away from that. It really, and I think in the age of iPhones and smart devices, where people have become increasingly to expect the device to just work, we need that to happen in the office. People are seeing it in their domestic lives and in the device in their pocket, and yet haven't seen it sort of within their workspace. So I think increasingly intuitive technology will be a real shift forward. And the final one, well, there are lots to choose from, but I think it's always good to have a sort of eye on the real future, and I think we will see an increasing move towards augmented reality. So I was talking about this the other day with people. Will we need in the future to have a hard fixed screen at a desk, for example, of a certain size? We're all about choosing, do you want a 27-inch screen? And maybe if we're moving into augmented reality, we'll be wearing either a set of glasses, maybe not some hideous goggles, but a form, even ultimately a contact lens that could have a head-up display, and you can actually choose the size of your screen by drawing it in the air, and it will then be there in your vision, and you'll be able to work to that screen and even move about and still with that information. So I think augmented reality maybe will start to really have an impact on how we work, and we'll actually get away maybe from some of that fixed technology. That will have an impact on other infrastructures such as wireless. It will need to work, and it will need to work seamlessly through a building, along the walls such as screens, have on our desks, etc., etc. But I think that's quite exciting. Maybe we'll look a little bit mad if we've got this contact lens and we're responding to it. We'll all look like we're on a bit of another planet, but it could be actually quite exciting and pretty efficient, I think.
Thank you, Nigel.
Lovely, thanks.
That's technology in the workplace. And if you'd like to find out more, please say hello@cordless.co.uk.